Hello, beautifuls. Welcome back to my Chanel. We have to talk about Oli London again.
I'm Oli London. I'm obsessed with K-pop and BTS.
A while back, I made a video on this Chanel titled, "We Need to Talk About Oli London," in which I reacted to a video that Oli had uploaded to his channel on YouTube. In this video, Oli comes forward to say that his pronouns are now Korean, Jimin, and core/Ian. In that video, I tried to approach the situation with an ounce of sympathy and empathy towards Oli London because I felt like the situation that he had got himself into was quite unfit for his mental health, shall we say. However, Oli London is now back in the news as he is appearing on Tucker Carlson and sharing some very difficult and problematic opinions towards the trans community and parroting right-wing talking points that are purely there to rile up a specific demographic. So how did we get here? How did we now get to someone like Oli London being a spokesperson/talking head for transphobic, bigoted opinions? I'm of the opinion that Oli London is a complete con man, and all of his experiences so far have been purely for attention. But in order for me to put that opinion across correctly, let's go back to the beginning, shall we? A little sidebar before we get into it here. Upon searching up Oli London's name, the Daily Mail has written 8 articles in the span of a year and a half. That's one every 2 months about this person. Oli London was born on the 14th of January in 1990. As of this video going live, that makes him 32 years old. Oli London is a British internet personality known for his multiple ethnic plastic surgery procedures intended to make him look like Jimin, a member of the South Korean boy band BTS. In an interview he gave with Vice.com, it says here, the 31-year-old influencer and musician told Vice over email that they first connected with Korean culture in 2013. "I was in Korea for a year and was teaching English, and that 1 year changed my life forever." So I think we can pretty much pinpoint that 2013 is when Oli London's obsession with South Korea began. Fast forwarding a few years, the first ever article about Oli London appears on the Daily Mail. I know, right? The Daily Mail! The gays love me! And the title of this article is, "British man forks out £75,000 on surgery to look like his Korean boy band idol, even risking blindness with eye injections to change their shape." Oli London, who lives in the capital, became infatuated with lead vocalist Jimin when he broke onto the scene in 2013 and has spent the last 5 years modeling himself on his favorite musician.
I want my entire lifestyle to revolve around K-pop, and I want my entire look to look like Jimin.
This article is the first glimpse we really get at Oli London's lust for attention, lust for mainstream media attention in Britain. When it comes to something like the mainstream media in the UK, especially for the Daily Mail, usually stories like this, someone will have to approach the Daily Mail in order to get them to run this. So it is quite likely in this case that Oli London actually went to the Daily Mail and said, "I've had surgery to look like my Korean pop star idol, please write a story on me." So there is actually a group of people in the UK that love mainstream media attention, and in fact they usually make up a lot of stories revolving around plastic surgery or work they've had done or shocking opinions that they share online in order to get their names in papers to make them relevant. Oli London is no exception to that rule. The others I can think of off the top of my head are Alicia Duval, Josie Cunningham, and even Jessica Alves, for example. Oli London pictured here before his transformations at age 23. His procedures so far include a nose job, jawline surgery, and even a silicone chin implant in a bid to emulate the doll-like look. Oli became infatuated with lead vocalist Jimin when he broke onto the scene in 2013 and has spent the last 5 years modeling himself on the musician. This article was rewritten by multiple other mainstream media sources. Just like what seems to happen with these kind of shocking stories is that they'll be shared to one type of newspaper, and then all of a sudden when you Google the name or the title of that article, several other different newspapers have posted the exact same thing with the exact same pictures from the exact same piece, giving the effect that this person is in fact a super multimedia star, that everyone's talking about them and they're so relevant in their celebrity status. So this article was written in October of 2018, and we don't see Oli London mention the word transracial yet in his interview with this specific article or this specific journalist. Fast forward a year and we have an even more shocking title here in order for Oli London to remain relevant in British media. British man reveals he's spent around 125k on 15 surgeries to look like his Korean boy band idol Jimin from BTS, who he says is perfection. At this point in time, Oli London was 29 years old and fully aware of what they were doing. A Caucasian man has had his jaw shaved down along with numerous other surgeries to look like his Korean boy band idol. So if we package this idea that Oli London is trying to imitate Jimin from BTS as his first foray into shock media, shall we say, he is repeating the exact same phrase again in this article. I want my entire lifestyle to revolve around K-pop, and I want my entire look to look like Jimin because for me, he is perfection. His jaw shape, his lips, his voice, everything.
I'm Oli London. I'm obsessed with K-pop and BTS. Jimin! Oh my god! And I'm in Korea to transform into a K-pop star. It's going to be very painful. I'm not actually changing my race, cultural appreciation, not cultural appropriation.
Now, wanting to imitate an actual living person is kind of bizarre. We've actually seen it here on the Chanel a few times with, there was a specific MTV extreme plastic surgery makeover show called I Want a Famous Face. And it, to me, just screams that there's some unaddressed issues that need to be worked forwards. In my first video with Oli London, I had some empathy towards that because clearly he'd been failed by his surgeons at that point. But as the story progresses, you actually start to realize that Oli knows what he's doing. He's using shock value to try and remain relevant. Oli first hit headlines in February 2019 after news broke that he'd spent over £75,000 on surgeries to look like the K-pop star. I don't actually think he looks anything like this K-pop star, but perhaps Oli started his journey wanting to have a smaller nose or a more angular face, and the way that he could somehow frame that into becoming relevant in British media is to sell that as I wanted to look like someone else, this very famous person. Further down in this article, Oli says this: so I'm not actually changing my race. I have a deep respect for Korean culture, not cultural appropriation, so I'm very, very respectful of Korean culture. We're going to see some things in this video that completely decimate that sentence. Korean people love me. They're very kind to me. They are very nice and they don't have a problem with it. That's just not true, is it? That's just not true. As I said, that article that we've just read is from 2019 and fast forward to 2020, and this is where things start to get completely wild. In January of 2020, an article by the Daily Mail again, can you believe it? My goodness, it's like they've got nothing else going on, hosts an article titled Exclusive! K-pop star superfan marries a cardboard cutout of his singing idol in a bizarre ceremony in Las Vegas after spending $165,000 on surgery to look just like the star. So what's actually happening now is we have this place where Oli London started. He started with 75 grand to kind of look like a Korean pop star. In 2018, and once the hype around that had died, it became, oh my god, 125k to look just like this person and potentially transitioning to become a Korean person. And only a few months after that, we now have Oli London marries a cardboard cutout of Jimin. Do you see the progression here? Do you see a progression? Do you see the desperation to remain relevant to the mainstream media? A British man who has spent more than $150,000 on plastic surgery to look like K-pop star Jimin has married a cardboard cutout of the BTS singer in Las Vegas.
So happy. Yay! Gonna marry Jimin, guys. Congratulations. Look, he's smiling, he's so happy.
There's a pink car, blonde, bleach blonde people Barbies everywhere. The twinks are loving it.
And to give each other a hunk of burning love. Do you promise?
We're gonna have a hunk of burning love.
All right, then by the power vested in me, the king, are pronounced to be partners in life, and you may kiss. Ladies and gentlemen, a nice round of applause for Las Vegas couple. Everybody, come on, let's do Las Vegas.
This is a little section of the video that's hosted on the Daily Mail website about the marriage between Oli London and the cardboard cutout of Jimin. I mean, it's just a little bit cringe, but at this point in the storyline of Oli London's bizarre character arc, it's kind of nothingy. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just a bit cringe. From an outsider point of view, this literally just looks like a circus nonsense. It looks harmless. It just seems like a shocking story told for the fact of being a shocking story. It would be pretty harmless if the story ended there. Unfortunately, it doesn't. Jimin is my idol. I've spent a lot of money on surgery to look like him, and now I've actually married him. You have not actually married him, but Oli London knows this, because this is a con man. Oli London knows exactly what he's doing and how to get attention by saying the most shocking, outrageous things to mainstream media so they pick it up and write a story. I would not have an issue at all if Oli London wasn't harming anyone through this activity, but he is. In order to solidify himself as a public figure in this way means that other people will start looking up to him. It doesn't matter if you're a troll, because other people will still believe that you are a real person and think, oh my god, transracial and transgender are the same thing. Look how deranged they all are. In 2020, Oli London posted a video on his YouTube channel titled Oli London New Eye Shape Reveal, in which he reveals that he has had a plastic surgery to make his eyes appear more like Jimin's eyes, his idol. And this is when we really start to see Oli London using the phrase transracial in order to suggest that somehow he was born in the wrong body and is in fact not a British person, but a Korean person. If we take a quick look here at Oli London's Facebook page, you start to see status updates that indicate that Oli London is co-opting actual legitimate causes, so that when further mainstream media articles write about him, he can say, I stood up for these people, I stood for this rights. When actually, it's quite the opposite, and we'll see that later. From the end of 2020 to the middle of 2021, you can start to see people lose interest in his story of transracialism. Transracial already technically exists. It's a historical adoption term in which the parents of an adopted child are a different race from the adopted child. It's co-opting a term that already exists to try and make it something that it really isn't. Now, in June of 2021, Oli London comes out as non-binary, but not only non-binary, a non-binary person who identifies as Korean. This is my new official flag for being a non-binary person who identifies as Korean. Thank you for the overwhelming support. It was so hard for me to come out as they, them, core/Ian. I reacted to that video here on the Chanel of Oli London coming out as non-binary /core/Ian, and I think I made my thoughts on that particular situation very clear in that video. At this point in the character development storyline of Oli London, he is being both racist and transphobic. When Oli London posted this tweet, it was met with a huge backlash from the transgender community, and rightly so. It was a hugely transphobic tweet to somehow infer that you can just identify as a Korean person, but that also your pronouns can now be core/Ian. Insufferable.
I get trolled so much online, and they say you'll never be a Korean pop star and stuff, even though I've had 2 top 8 hits in the iTunes chart. Particularly the issue people seem to have with me is because I'm British, I'm not Korean.
Do you think you look Korean?
I think I look very much like a K-pop star. The K-pop stars, the vast majority of them, they have surgery, so it's like, you know, for anyone trying to be a K-pop, they have to have a certain look, and it's very, very specific.
Yeah, right? So you
The
can see a
look.
distinction between the K-pop star look and looking Korean.
Here we have Oli London stating that he does not want to be Korean, he just wants to emulate a K-pop star, or the specific styles associated with being a K-pop star. This is where we start to see a grift evolving, because in this video he has stated, I don't want to be Korean, I just want to look like a K-pop star. As we've seen through his Facebook, and as we've seen through some of the news articles so far, he actually starts to say, I am Korean. And all of this just further adds to my opinion that he is doing this purely for attention.
Right, obviously, I'm not trying to change my race and look Korean, I just want the K-pop look.
But do you see how, why that might be a bit sensitive, like maybe Asian people?
I get why people would say that. Like, you know, I think it's 2020, everyone's entitled to embrace different cultures. So by doing the K-pop, that's because I have an appreciation for that culture. And I get why some people from an Asian background would think that's very weird.
I actually think in this video, Oli comes across a little bit uncomfortable with the idea that he is being faced with some of his choices that he has made, because he actually backtracks on a few of his opinions by saying, you know, it's 2020, I think people should have all sorts of cultural appreciation, whilst outside of that room actively contributing to racist stereotypes by suggesting that in some way he can get surgery on his eyes to look Korean.
So I am going to come out today and say that I've been transitioning. I've been very unhappy with who I am deep down for the last 8 years, and I've had like 18 plastic surgeries now, and I've just had a facelift, a brow lift, a temple lift, an eye surgery, a canthoplasty, and my teeth done as well. And my pronouns are they, them, Korean, Jimin, because I know a lot of people don't understand me, but I do identify as Korean, and I do look Korean now. I do feel Korean. I don't identify as British, so please don't refer to me, any media or anyone online, as British, because I identify as Korean. That's just my culture, that's my home country, That's exactly how I look now.
Furthermore, in response to the backlash that Oli London got for that tweet he posted, he made a video on his channel called I'm Non-Binary Korean, which is 9 minutes of saying things like woke culture is to blame, how dare woke people come at me for coming out as non-binary.
Hi guys, so I'm here today to address something that's happening right now on Twitter, and it's really not right. So I want to put it right. I want to speak up. I want to speak up against woke culture. I want to speak up out against, woke people, because this is not right. This behavior is like literally out of control. Like, these woke people are literally like animals on Twitter. It's so crazy.
This is the first time we actually hear Oli London using the phrase woke people and woke culture. And this will become really important because clearly you can see the cogs turning in his mind of, oh my goodness, I thought this would get me loads of extra attention to be able to be put into mainstream media more. I don't think that Oli taking this route actually had the effect that he wanted. I think that actually the backlash here was a problem. And now because he's witnessed that backlash, I think it pushed him further into right-wing bigoted talking points. So far in this character development storyline, we're about 3 years in, and Oli is still doing every single thing he can possibly do to remain relevant in the mainstream media. And once again, at this point, people were losing interest in Oli London's story. It wasn't until January 2022 that another article, which is just so racist and stereotype. It's shocking. It's absolutely shocking that this was even written. Listen to this. Transracial influencer Oli London reveals plans for penis reduction surgery. The social media star, who was born British and white, has spent an estimated $250,000 on around 20 surgeries to attempt to make himself look Korean. Again, we've got this highly inflated number. Who is spending $250,000 on plastic surgery? Where did he get the money for this? A. Also, we know from previous history that the surgeons are giving it to him for free, but they're also not necessarily coming forward and saying that they are. I don't want people to get offended by this, but in Korea, the average penis is like 3.5 inches. I get trolled all the time and people say, oh, you can't be Korean, you're not 100% Korean, and I just want to be 100% Korean. I would even have a penis reduction, so I'm like the Korean average. That's how far I'm willing to go. I can have it done in Thailand and it will cost between $6,000 and $8,000. Thailand's cheaper, and to be honest, they do specialize in those kinds of things in Thailand because they have a lot of sex changes and stuff. Sure. I know it does sound weird. I just want to be 100% Korean. My entire face will be Korean. I've done my chest. I'm like, what can I do next? I don't know. Oli London knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing when he's saying something like, I want to be 100% Korean and the average penis length in Korea is 3.5 inches. He knows what he's doing. He's getting attention online and articles are being written about it so that people will share it and be like, oh my God. Keep in mind, we now have a good 3 or 4 years of the transracial storyline that Oli London is peddling towards everyone for the sole reason of attention. Then in April 2022, we see another article. This time, Oli has come out as a trans woman. Not only as a trans woman, as a trans Korean woman. At this point, it just... like, what even is this? What even is this storyline? What even is this? The Mirror has published an article in April of 2022 saying, British man undergoes £230,000. Again, we've inflated that number. That number again, how much is that in dollars? Let me have a look. $300,000. So again, we have this arbitrary number that sort of suggests, I'm sorry, if you've had $300,000 worth of plastic surgery, what are you actually having? Like, what is that? You don't look like you've had $300,000 worth of plastic surgery. What? In total, TikTok star Oli London, 32, has had over £230,000 worth of surgery since 2014. The 32-year-old has admitting to being obsessed with plastic surgery. Oli from central London has recently been under the knife for the 9th time for a facelift and feminization surgery, which involved a broad range of procedures to change masculine facial features into feminine features. Now, I'm going to self-insert a little bit here because I'm a little bit jaded about this story because media loves to give attention to negative role models and to kind of use people as a cautionary tale of, oh my gosh, all trans people look like this or all trans people behave like this. I filmed a facial feminization surgery documentary when I had my facial feminization surgery last year in 2022. I contacted quite a lot of mainstream media articles to try and get some sort of story written about my experience and to show to trans people that there is actually healthy ways to do this. Not a single publication got back to me, but as soon as you say something like, British man undergoes £230,000 worth of plastic surgery to make himself look like a Korean woman, suddenly everyone's interested in that story. I'm not saying British mainstream media is inherently transphobic. but that's exactly what I'm saying. While Oli believes social media opportunities make it worth it, he has admitted to losing friends and family because of it, with both his mum and sister disowning him. Is the media attention really worth your family disowning you? He said, I'm addicted to TikTok, which has put more pressure on how I look at myself. I spend about 8 hours a day on the app and I'm constantly making videos. It is just a part of my daily life. This is where we first start seeing Oli London trying to blame something for the way that he views himself. It's interesting that he specifically mentions TikTok because it says here that he started his surgical journey in 2014. That's a good 2.5 years before TikTok actually came on the scene. So in order for someone to say that TikTok is to blame, I don't quite believe that. I have quite an obsessive and impulsive personality. I discovered beautiful Korean women on TikTok and I decided I wanted to look like them. Breast implants have crossed my mind, but I want to be certain. I am already feeling more confident, but I am not going to rush into changing my body. However, I may identify as a woman in the future. This is where the story starts to get highly problematic because you don't just wake up one day and decide to be a woman. That's not what being trans or being a transsexual is about. It's actually quite a journey of self-discovery to get there. And Oli at this point was treating it very much as an accessory to just be like, well, if I think I can look like them, I might as well just do that. And you know what's really annoying is that mainstream media ran with that narrative and sort of almost hoisted Oli London as an authority on what it means to be a trans person. I'm obsessed with TikTok and I feel like I need to look more beautiful to get more brand deals. So from a business perspective, it makes sense for me to continue going under the knife. Your business model cannot be getting plastic surgery. I'm sorry, it just can't. That's not a successful business model. Now, in this article, Oli London has said, however, I may identify as a woman in the future. So this, to anyone who's paying attention, should have been a massive red flag because Oli has actually stated in black and white there that he wants to get more plastic surgery to continue getting brand deals on TikTok. Therefore, creating some sort of warped argument that somehow transition is for brand deals and to further a career. Being trans is not an accessory. Being trans is not something you just wake up one day and go, I might choose to identify as this in the future. Maybe, perhaps, I might, depending if the brand deals or, you know, if someone offers me some money, maybe I'll get breast implant. I don't know yet. I just don't know. That is absolutely categorically not what being trans is. Being trans is not a joke. And Oli London has kind of used it as a circus joke act in order to try and get more attention to feed his ego. In May of 2022, Oli actually appeared on a show called Can You Identify as Transracial? Would You Rather? By Channel 4.
I identify as Korean. I used to live in Korea. I was living there for 1 year. I love the culture, I love the history.
Remember in an earlier interview, Oli said, I do not want to be Korean, I do not want to look Korean, I just want to look like a K-pop star. Remember that? Do you remember that? The development process of the grift continues.
I put myself through a lot of pain. I've had a lot of surgical procedures to have more of a Korean aesthetic. I came out earlier this year sharing that with the world. People didn't really get it, but I hope over time people will be kind of more accepting with me.
Transracial does not exist, and I think it is very, very harmful for us to push the narrative that it is possible to switch races. I can't sit up here and say, oh, I'm suddenly a white woman, and I can't swap and benefit from the privilege that you benefit from. Then it's clearly not an equal exchange.
Nobody can take away what a minority group has been through, but I think when we do combine cultures, whether that's the hairstyle, whether that's the fashion style, whether they want to go and live in Korea, we all have the right to choose how we identify, to be who we want to be.
Some very important points were raised in this video, and I feel like it's incredibly important to listen to people. Now, at the very, very end of this video by Channel 4, Oli London says this.
I'm Korean, you know, people need to accept that. Nothing has changed. I still identify as transracial and Korean. I will always identify this way.
Let's keep that in mind because Oli London has in fact now done a complete 180 and changed his mind completely about that.
As you guys know, I transitioned. I became a Korean woman. I had a lot of surgery to be more feminine. I started to wear women's clothing. I got Korean hair extensions. And started wearing makeup and just really living as a Korean woman for the last 6 months. So many people gave me compliments, so many people saying, wow, you actually look better as a woman. So I was thinking, okay, I do look better, I look more Korean this way. As you guys know, I'm always confused about how I identify. Some days I wake up as Jimin, some days I wake up as Rose from Blackpink. But I've come to realize that actually I am a man and I want to stay as a man. So I'm going to revert to my original pronouns, which is he, him. and call Ian. So these are going to be my pronouns again. And I really do appreciate everyone for respecting my pronouns and calling me she, her during the last 6 months when I identified as a Korean woman. But I just want to say to a lot of people, there are a lot of young people that actually go through the transition surgery, you know, as teenagers, and at the time they feel it's right, then afterwards they do regret it.
1 month ago, a video was uploaded to YouTube titled Fox News Tucker Carlson Tonight with Oli London. And you know what? We're going to react to this video. So, get your beverages at the ready, my loves. I am on the Monster Rosa because it's very important for me to keep my energy alive. Because we are about to see the most bizarre turn in this story that just goes to show that Oli London is purely a troll, in it for the money and in it for the attention. So if you don't know, Tucker Carlson is an American television host who has been described as a leading voice of white grievance politics and is well known for circulating far-right ideas into the mainstream politics and discourse. And Fox News is the most watched cable news show in America. The most watched. Keep that in mind. This obscure person, Oli London, who was marrying Jimin's cardboard cutout for a few people on the Daily Mail, is now on the most watched American news show sharing these views.
As a Korean woman. But 6 months later, he's decided he's had enough. Now he's transitioning back to being a British man.
So I just want to interject here and actually interrupt Tucker Carlson and say that that is not correct as per this clip.
So I'm actually in the process of detransitioning, and I am living as a Korean man again. So pronouns he, him, call Ian.
But let's continue.
Now he's transitioning back to being a British man. We thought we would ask.
Can we just digest that sentence for a second? Sorry. Identifying as a Korean woman, now detransitioning to a British man. Detransitioners are absolutely a thing, and we should absolutely listen to people who have detransitioned, and also listen to people who have found that medical transition is not for them. I do actually want to point out here some important statistics when it comes to trans people. Recently, the Office for National Statistics in the UK found out that 0.5% of the people of the United Kingdom identify as trans in some way or another. That's approximately 260,000 people that identify as trans in the UK. To put that into perspective, there are twice as many trans people as NHS doctors. And of that 0.5% number of trans people, there is 0.1% of people who detransition. And detransition can be due to multiple different things, whether that's social pressures, stigma, being unable to actually find work, being unable to access medical transition, or being able to afford it. There are a plethora of reasons. But for some reason, mainstream media loves to platform detransitioners as if they speak for the majority. And they don't.
Oli London joins us tonight. Oli London, thanks so much for coming on. So why did you...
Internet celebrity detransitions after spending 6 months as a Korean woman. Why are we platforming this person? Why are we platforming this person? You haven't spent 6 months as a Korean woman. You just haven't. To put that into perspective, I'm coming up 9 years into my transition. 9 years, just so we know. We're not talking to people who've transitioned for many, many years. We're talking to people who, after 6 months, who became obsessed with it on TikTok, decided that maybe it would be related to brand deals and getting further in their career, and then 6 months later changing their mind, just so we know where we are.
Thanks so much for coming on. So why did you decide to become a Korean woman? Who told you that was possible?
So obviously I've had a difficult time with my gender identity struggles. I was never unhappy with how I looked. So
Sorry, two separate things there. Those two things cannot exist in the same phrase. You cannot say I've had gender identity struggles, but I've never had a problem with the way that I look. Because gender identity struggles or dysphoria is directly related to the way that you look. The idea that we have previously seen in this video articles in which Oli London has said, I feel very unhappy with the way I look. I felt very unhappy with the way I look for a long time. I've sought out plastic surgery to change that. Shows that this person's lived experience is completely made up. It completely changes on a day-to-day basis. And that's not the same as having a strong belief and updating it as new information comes in. It's just trends. He's just doing it to be trendy. He's doing it for attention and doing it to get mainstream media to talk about him. Oli London is not a good, well-rounded example of what it is to be a trans person in any way, shape or form.
I was never unhappy with how I looked. So I started changing. I started dressing as a Korean woman. And I realized that was a big mistake.
You also don't look like a Korean woman. What an unhinged sentence.
And I realized that was a big mistake and I just want to be a boy. But you know...
Sorry, I just have to cut in there and say, I just want to be a boy. You are a 32-year-old man. You cannot just be a boy. You haven't been a boy for a very long time at this point. Again, I feel like Oli knows what he's doing because he's used the word boy, and boy is always associated in these sort of like bigoted right-wing spheres very much
Sex change operations for children, innocent boys and girls.
Instead of saying, I choose to live my life as a man, or however he could have phrased that, not using a word that relies on such emotive innocence. This just adds another transphobic layer to the opinion of trans kids don't exist.
And I just want to be a boy. But, you know, is it any wonder people like me and young people want to change their gender when we have the normalization of this in our schools in this country? Children are taught from a young age, from the age of 5 in some cases, that it's okay to change their gender.
You weren't taught in America. You were born in the UK in the 90s, and in the UK in the 90s, in state-run schools, we had something called Section 28, which, paraphrasing here, means that any promotion of homosexuality or LGBT lifestyles was explicitly illegal in schools. And that was up until 2000, and we felt the effects of that right the way up until I finished school in 2005. At this point, it feels like Oli London has literally sat down and watched lots of right-wing content here on YouTube and parroting those little bigoted phrases back to Tucker Carlson in this interview in order to discredit the trans experience. As if it's not real, or as if it's like something made up or just something that's brainwashed into you as a child, which is fundamentally not true. It's disgusting. It's disgusting behavior, and I cannot believe that anyone around Oli London in their life actually likes them.
It's okay to, you know, wear a skirt. It's okay for a boy to use a gender-neutral toilet when it puts girls at risk. This is the new norm.
It doesn't put girls at risk.
Schools are teaching about toxic masculinity. They're eroding the alpha male. The alpha straight male has been eroded. You know, Tucker, what happened years ago when kids used to go to school, they used to idolize Superman and astronauts. Now kids are being pushed this radical ideology. They're taught to idolize weak men like Harry Styles, weak politicians like Beto O'Rourke. Why is this happening, you know? And is it any wonder people like me fall victim to this, that I had all this surgery, I tried to change because, you know, I'm
sorry, I just have to say something here. I'm not usually someone who will point at somebody's outside expression and say that it really says anything about them. But Oli London says here, I've detransitioned. I'm not interested in any way, shape or form of being a Korean woman anymore. You have so much makeup on and lip gloss, and you still have fillers, you still have Botox. Granted, you can't reverse Botox, you can reverse fillers though. Just goes to show me that what Oli London is saying is not necessarily true in their day-to-day life. He is saying these pieces in order to get further exposure on things like Tucker Carlson and Fox News. If you really did just want to be a boy and embrace your masculinity, why are you still doing things that we would typically associate with femininity, such as glossy pink DSLs? Why?
I kind of fell victim to this mentality. I'm an adult,
How did you
but you know, these kids can't make these decisions on their own.
You didn't fall victim. How did you fall victim to this? You started in 2014.
They're being pushed this radical agenda, and I'm grateful that I've come out the other side. I'm grateful I found God. But, you know, I want to speak up for these kids that are confused with their gender. A lot of kids have gender dysphoria, and, you know, that wasn't a thing 20 years ago, Tucker.
Yes, it was.
This is what's being taught in the school system.
It's not being taught in the school system.
And I'm not mocking you at all. It's a sincere question. Did you feel when you, quote, transitioned and started living as something that you weren't, did you feel like you were that thing, and were you at peace inside?
You know,
Oli London wants to put an end to children being pushed into gender-affirming surgeries. Children are not undergoing sex change operations.
You know, I've never really found happiness until recently. So I was always struggling with my looks, as most kids do.
He just said earlier in this interview, I didn't have a problem with the way that I looked, but I did have gender dysphoria. What's true, Oli? What is the truth?
So I was always struggling with my looks, as most kids do, especially as a teenager. Between, you know, the age of 11 to 13, kids change, and kids start to question themselves. They start to question their looks, their identity. They have self-esteem issues. This is normal.
But not every kid is trans. Trans adults don't just spring out of nowhere. Trans adults were also, at some point in life, a trans kid.
I used to really hate the way I looked, so I thought having all this surgery, trying to become a girl, dressing as a girl, trying to be more feminine, I thought that would make me happy. I've realized that was a big mistake, and I feel like, you know, if I was born 40 years ago, I wouldn't have done this. It's what the woke culture is pushing these days.
Woke
culture. On TikTok. It's the new new normal, and this is so
Woke culture, the new normal, all of these phrases are very specific phrases that are used to rile up the section of the demographic that will just tune in every night to Tucker Carlson. And now, all of these people are going to stand behind Oli London as like, yes, Oli London is the champion, look!
Trans people are liars. You can't become Korean. Korean people are ill.
Like, where does this lead? Where eventually does this go to? What is Oli London going to do next? Because eventually, this will run out of steam as well.
really affecting kids, and the school boards have a lot to answer for with this.
Do they?
I agree with that. A lot of people are unhappy inside. That's normal. But pharmaceuticals and plastic surgery aren't going to fix it, of course, as you know. Oli London, great to see you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Tucker.
Gobsmacked, absolutely gagged at the pageant, sis. So, my lovelies, I have some final thoughts to share with you about the Oli London saga that continues here on the internet, it would seem. A long time ago, in right-wing trans content here on YouTube, there used to be a phrase that certain creators, what's the word? Is the word co-opted here, or should I just say used? Used to describe people that they didn't think were trans, or people that weren't trans in the exact same way that they were, and therefore weren't trans at all. That word was transtrender. Now, the word transtrender has a very negative connotation because it kind of infers that being trans is a trend, and that people who are trans to be trendy are not to be taken seriously. If there isn't someone on this planet that really fits the word transtrender more than Oli London, I don't know who does. I will never wish unhappiness on anyone. I think everyone has a right to access happiness and the right to exist in this world as a way that makes them feel as though they belong. However, when it comes to Oli London, that is not what he is doing. What he has done is co-opted certain movements in order to appear a specific kind of way and almost be used as an example of that movement, purely for attention and ego. That's it, nothing else. Oh, maybe money. Money is also, I'm sure, a contributing factor to this. If you take anything from this video, do not listen to Oli London. They are a very confused person, and I truly do not believe that they will bring anything of value into the conversation about trans people, racist stereotypes, and plastic surgery. And you know what, my loves? I think I'm gonna leave it there for this video. I can't believe we've gone from something like I want to look like a Korean person all the way to I have found God, and that's why we're gonna stop children from having sex change operations. What is this storyline? I just don't know what's gonna happen next. With Oli London, it's like a new thing is happening every 6 months, and that seems to be getting faster and faster. It is now January of 2023. I wonder what he's going to be saying in May. And you know what, my loves? With that, it is time for the Patreons. You can see yourselves scrolling past on the screen right here, my lovelies. Please let me know what you think about what we've discussed in today's video in the comments box below, because it's just wild. I don't think I would be quite as invested in this person if what they're saying didn't have such a negative impact on people. Certain types of people are going to watch that show in which he has been a part of and say things like, oh my God, they're right. It's complete nonsense. We don't have to listen to you. We're going to ignore our trans kids. We're going to ignore our trans friends or trans family members, whatever it is. It's just problematic from start to finish. I am also back on Twitch, my loves. You can go and follow me over on there. It is Luxeria Plays. I stream every Monday and Thursday. And I also want to say a massive thank you to my top tier Patreons. Aloria, Orcos Emoji, Beebles32, Shell Herman, Christy Crownover, Christina Kyle, ContraPoints, Danielle, Danny Smith, Dr. A, Elizabeth Stone, Eric Castillo, Jen Martin, Jenabeth Herman, Caitlin Wright, Laura Jane again, Les Banana, Lisa Pennington, Min TM, Mariah Sherman, Nixie Tricks, Paolo Rivera, Ryan Vita, Sexy Texy RN, Slampire Queen, Steffi Tech, Traverful, Tromo, Victoria Corella, and Zoe Sevier. And you know what, my loves? I'm going to leave it on the note of just don't listen to Oli London.